Okay, Melody was like 6, and you must have been 10. And at first, y'all were all in, but then he started wanting to set rules. And, it's hard to set rules for stepchildren. It's next to impossible. I don't know how he did it. And he would tell me when I'd come home from work that, he would get home sooner. And he said, well, they won't mind me. They won't do what I said and all this. And so, we went through all that. And Melody was easier for him to win over because she was younger. And you had been the little man of the house for 2 years when I was single. And you felt like nobody's going to tell me what to do. I've been the man of the house. And, it caused a little tiff between, Robert and me and you and all that. But you worked it out. And then you met Sammy. What was their last name? Tarver. And he was in the same situation. He had a stepdad. And so y'all, I'm sure, exchanged ideas. And you began to accept Robert. And then things went real smooth after that. And anyway, we spent a lot of time going to sports, watching Melody and you. She played softball. She played basketball. She was real good. She could get that basket, that ball in the basket. And you played baseball. And then you became an umpire and earn a little money. And I wanted my children to not feel overly privileged. We had plenty of money then with the two of us working, but I didn't want them to be spoiled. And so I wanted them to each have a little job to bring in some spending money. And that's what you both did that in various ways. I remember when you worked for Brahms and they told you something about square dipping and you didn't like it. But you were strong and you did it. You did whatever it took. You worked at Minyard Foods at your first job, and you were so young they almost didn't hire you. But during that time, it was hard to find a kid that would pass the drug test. And you did. You were fine, and they were happy to have you.
What do you remember about Melody and I going to church and being a part of
Yeah.
church group and everything?
Yeah, well, there was a strong youth group there. But even before you got into the youth group, you got in the puppet ministry. And we would go around and pick up children in the Spanish neighborhood and in a bus and bring them to the puppet show. And you and Melody both did puppets. And it brought a lot, your personality began to come out. You had been kind of shy, but then you started talking more as a puppet, and then pretty soon it just brought you out of your shell.
What do you remember about me going to Dallas Christian and then the transition to R.L. Turner?
Well, Dallas Christian, it was a long way over there. So we weren't able to participate in a lot of activities from the school. But if you had practice after school and you missed the bus, Robert would drive all the way over there and get you. He was quite a dad, I'll tell you. And then we went through a recession, kind of hard times, and it cost so much for the bus. So Robert suggested that it was time to put y'all in public school. And I don't know if it was that hard for you, Mike, to make the transition. Was it? But Melody cried every night. She said the girls are picking on me. Girls picking on her. And it was very difficult. And I really kind of didn't feel good that we had done that. I wish we had continued on because y'all were flourishing over there in the Christian schools. But then you both did real well in school. You did your lessons, and both of you made real good grades. Melody, in addition to playing basketball, she became the president of the National Honor Society. So I can't say that you suffered academically for changing schools. And I think maybe you were ahead, actually. Christian schools probably gave you a leg up. When you went to public schools, you were already advanced. So it was a good thing.
It's pretty easy. What do you remember about me when you dropped me off at ACU?
Oh my, that was a big thing. It was my first child to drop off at college. And when we left there, you were standing on the sidewalk outside of your dorm. We had taken you inside and set your bed up and got all your things put away and everything, and we kind of drug our heels, and Robert was saying, we better get back home, we got to go to work tomorrow. And so we were in that Chinook, that like a little mobile home thing on wheels. And Melody and I began to cry when we looked back and saw you standing there all by yourself, Mike, and you looked so little. You were like, what, 18? Yeah, 18. But you weren't as tall. You grew after you went to college, like
4 inches.
4 inches, yeah. Well, anyway, Melody and I cried off and on all the way back from Abilene to Carrollton. Poor Robert. He kept trying to liven us up and get us to laugh. We'd laugh for a second, then we'd start crying again. Anyway, and it was hard for me to even go to work. And people would say, well, you dropped your son off to ACU. And I'd say, don't go there. It just really, it was hard. It was very difficult. You can probably relate. You went through that too.
So, on funnier terms, what was the Chinook? Let's get back to that story of your incident with the Chinook.
Goodness, you have to bring that up.
Hey, you brought it up, the Chinook. Well, how did that?
Well,
Webb
Chapel Church had this big awning thing that was made out of steel and I don't know what all, and you could drop people off there, and they wouldn't get wet if it was raining or bad weather of any sort. Well, the Chinook had an air conditioner on top, and I was driving it. I was going to go there first, and then y'all were going to come later for some reason, and I drove it under that overhang, and it banged in, the air conditioner caught. And I was like panicking, and there were some men right outside there, and they saw it, and I went, help, and they came over and got it into the driver's seat and backed it out. I didn't know what to do. I knew it was stuck. And anyway, then I started driving home because I got to get help with this thing. And it just tore up the air conditioner, though. The rest of the Chinook was fine. And as I was driving home, Robert was bringing Mike and Melody, and we passed each other. And as we passed, I went like this to make sure y'all saw it, and I was honking my horn, and y'all were laughing your heads off because Robert said, how could we miss it? There were wires and things just going all over the place. It was terrible. It was very embarrassing. We got it fixed, though.
So what was it like with Melody in high school? Because I wasn't home to see anything, so how did that go?
Melody grew up real quick. She became very mature, and she wasn't really home that much in the evenings, and I would try to get her to stay home, but she had a friend that was, her husband was something at the church. I don't remember what. And so they were good people, and she wanted to go over there, and the lady had a baby, And Melody wanted to be over there and play with the baby and everything. And she would go over there almost every evening after dinner. So I really didn't get to see much of her. And during the summer months, she worked at a pizza place. And she had a lot of fun with the guys in there. She was the only girl in the pizza place. They were making pizzas. She learned how to throw it up in the air and everything.
What do you remember about me graduating from ACU and everything? Because you took me.
Yes. Okay, my mom and dad drove up from the valley to Carrollton, and we all went together. I think we went in 2 cars because we were going to bring you back. And we went to your graduation, and it was a big deal. And I got to be the one to put the hood over you, Mike. The parents, the mothers were behind their sons, and the dads were behind their daughters. So when it was time to put the hood on, I got to do that for you. Robert got to do it for Melody a few years later.
How big of a moment was that?
How big of a what?
Yeah, I mean, how big of a moment, or just what do you remember the most from that?
Well, you told me you were already going to marry Leanne, so, yeah, it was a big moment. Leanne had graduated the year before and was already working as a school teacher. And anyway, I knew that once you graduated, you were going to get married, like, in July. So we didn't have much time with you before you got married.
What do you remember the first time you met Leanne?
Oh, well, Robert and I both noticed how beautiful she was and how sweet. Very sweet girl. And just had a big smile all the time. And Ann and Wilbert invited us to come over and play cards or board games or something. And we did that in their home. That was a real nice evening. And I think it was just after a while you and Leanne went on your way and maybe went out or something, and it was just the 4 of us, and we got acquainted with her mom and dad, and we could tell they were very nice people, good Christian people. Mm-hmm.
What do you remember about our wedding?
Yeah, Leanne and Mike's wedding. Well, it was beautiful. Mike wanted to wear a white tux, and all of his groomsmen were going to wear black jackets and I don't remember what kind of pants.
I think they were white jackets and black pants.
White jacket, black pants. And Mike wanted the whole thing to be white. And so I thought, why not? That's what he wants. Well, I had to put up a little bit of a struggle with Leanne and her mom because they wanted you to have the same outfit as your groomsman. But I said, well, I don't see why, because he's the groom, and so he could be different, and that's what he wants. And that's the only thing he's asked for, so I think we should let him have what he wants. And so they let us have that.
I probably should have worn black pants. But
No, you look great. And, oh, Mike, through the stained glass windows, the sun shone through on your back, and it looked like a rainbow. I'm not kidding you. My whole family noticed it. And my Aunt Helen and Uncle George came from California. Also, Aunt Cora came from California with her daughter Jeanette. And Ermila from Guadalajara, Mom and Dad's real good friend. She came also. I mean, we had a good showing from our side of the family. And, of course, Teresa was there.
Okay, so when we first had Blake, what did you remember about Blake?
Beautiful baby, beautiful child, blonde hair, blue eyes. And what I remember is, Lynn having to go through after many long hours of labor, then they decide they better take the baby C-section. And Mike was scared to death, had a white face, came to tell us, and we scared us and everybody in there. There was Robert, me, Ann and Wilbert, Scott and Sandra, and their two little girls. And their two little girls were entertaining a little bit, kind of helped to break the ice for us because we were all. Oh, they only had the one? Okay, Sandra, Courtney. Okay. And anyway, though, because we had a little one there, it kind of helped. And, but yeah, it was kind of scary. And so, you know, but then you were in there the whole time taking a video of the whole thing. And I think Leanne said, you know, you're not going to video this, are you?
So, what do you remember about Blake as he was growing up and everything?
Well, he was just a precious little boy. As a tiny boy, we had him over here many times when Mom and Dad would want to go out, and he would just come and, you know, spend the night or whatever, and he was fine with it. He didn't cry or anything. One time he had a temper tantrum. He got on his back and he scooched till he hit his head. And Leanne had told me he does that sometimes. And so when he did that, I picked him up and I said, Blake, we don't do that at Grandma's house. And he never did it again at our house because I thought he was going to hurt himself. So, but anyway, he was a delightful child.
What about, okay, two things. What about when Leanne and I went off on a Mexico trip or something?
Oh, yes, you went on vacation and left him with us. Oh, that was too long, I guess a whole week. And he was really angry that y'all had left him. Now, see, we didn't even realize it until we take him to the airport. He seemed like he was just having a ball with us. We were just doing all kinds of fun things.
He locked you out of your bedroom.
He locked us out of the bedroom. Yeah, Robert took the doorknob off and got in there, and he was just sitting on our, that's right, he was sitting on our bed like this. Mm-hmm. He was mad, but we didn't know what for. We thought he was mad at us, but he was mad at Mama and Daddy. And then when we took him to the airport, we were going to pick up Mom and Daddy, he was very excited about it. He missed you. And he was only 2 years old. And I remember you had to go through the international part to be checked in, and Leanne got down on her knees and had her arms open like this, and he just ran to her and passed her. And she went, oh, Blake. She was just crestfallen. Oh, my gosh. But that was his way of saying, don't leave me alone like that again. But then we all went out to Applebee's to have dinner. And Blake was sitting between me and Leanne, and I heard him say, Mommy, I love you. And he kissed her and hugged her real big. So he made up with her. He forgave her.
And then you took him to Glen Rose and everything.
Oh, yeah. When Blake was 11 years old, I told him, we're going to go on a little trip. I checked it out with you first and everything. So we went to Granbury and stayed in a real nice hotel with a pool and everything. He had a ball swimming. And we went there especially to see The Promise, which was a story of Jesus. And Blake knew all of the stories from the Bible, the walking on the water and Peter and everything, the fisherman, all that. And he was telling me the story while we were watching it. But he loved it. He just loved it. And he was a perfect companion, travel companion, bar none. And then the day we were going to leave, I said, well, we don't have to leave real early. It's not that far from home. So we went to the downtown area, but it was Sunday, and we were going to buy a Harry Potter book at the bookstore. Well, the bookstore was closed, and it had a big sign in the window, Harry Potter sold out. He was crestfallen, because that's what he was looking forward to. So I said, that's okay. Maybe they'll have it at Walmart. Who knows? Well, of course they did. They had piles of them at Walmart. Well, I bought him one of those, and then we had lunch at Walmart, and he was reading so much. I said, Blake, remember, eat your hamburger. or whatever it was. He loved that book. And we decided it would be kind of a thing. We stopped at a Dairy Queen and got one of those chocolate dip cones, and they were so good. So every little while, every day, he would say, "Can we go to Dairy Queen and get one of those dip cones?" So yeah, we did. We just kept stopping everywhere we went. We'd have to stop at Dairy Queen.
And then you took them to the dinosaurs.
Oh yes, at Glen Rose, the dinosaur tracks. And of course they had those big replicas of dinosaurs. Well, now they have a safari. You can go through there. That would have been wonderful. Well, anyway, he loved seeing the tracks and everything. That was a big thing. And then we went to the Creation Museum. And Blake learned so much there. He couldn't stop talking about that the scientists are telling the wrong thing. It wasn't millions and millions of years ago. It wasn't that long ago that the dinosaurs and people lived at the same time. And so anyway, he was very impressed with that. And we bought him some things to take home about that and took pictures. He really liked this elderly man that was telling all about it. It was in a trailer, really, the museum.
And then Brooke comes along. What do you remember about Brooke?
Well, Brooke was a little doll, and she was just full of personality. And also, she was a mama's girl. And where Blake had, let's see now, Blake had a blanket. He had what he called blankie, and he had to have that everywhere he went when he was little, but he didn't have to have that when we went on the trip. I think he was over it by then. But Brooke had Gownie. It was a green gown, a silky gown that Leanne had worn, and she carried that whole thing around with her all the time. And she was very attached to her mother, I'll tell you that. And the first time that you left Brooke and Blake with me, Brooke just kept crying and crying for Mama. And I took her outside. See, you can see things out here. Nothing would console her. And my neighbor came out, who's a nurse, and she said, "What happened?" I said, "Nothing. She's just crying for Mama. I can't seem to console her. I did everything that worked with Blake, but it didn't work with her." She was just heartbroken. She was gone for one evening. Y'all weren't even going to spend the night, just one night, one evening. So she came over and held her, and I don't know if she calmed down with Bertha or not. I don't remember, but she finally did calm down. Thank goodness. And then when she was only maybe, I don't know, she wasn't 2, and she was not talking fluently yet, but I gave her some ice cream, and there was a cup. She's heard me tell this story many times, but there was just a little bit left, and she said, picked up the spoon, and she said, "Just a tiny drop," and ate that drop. It was so cute.
What do you remember about her growing up? A lot of sports and stuff like that.
Oh my, yes. Well, we went to Pips, and Lauren. She and Lauren learned how to spin a ball on their basketball on their, or was it basketball? On their finger, their thumb, their toes, everything, and dribble and all that. And really, that was excellent experience as Brooke turned out to be such a basketball star. But Lauren was pretty good at it too, and they both did real good with that. And we went to a tournament one time, and where they were competing, and some of the girls had balls spinning on their both feet and hands. It's unreal.
And then when Brooke went to high school, it became even a bigger thing with her, basketball.
Yes. Oh, yes. And playing basketball right over here at Prestonwood, I could go to all of her games, which I certainly did. And then when y'all moved from one house to another, it was pretty close to 2 weeks, I guess, that the girls stayed with me. And that was when I got, I don't know why I wasn't working. I guess I was retired by then. I was. So Tammy, my cat, had passed away. And so after a while, I wanted another cat, but I wanted a kitten. So I went to a shelter, a Farmers Branch shelter, and I saw this little girl here, Melody. And she's just a really ordinary tabby cat, brown tabby. But she came up to me, and there was another cat, a kitten. There was a room full of them, and I was sitting in a chair, and they both started crawling up my legs, and I picked up Melody, and I looked at the name that they'd put on her collar, and it said Melody. And I said, Lord, is this, you want me to have this kitty? Because I was kind of thinking the white one, but Melody? Of course, somebody there had named her, but still, I thought maybe this is God telling me this would be a good cat for you. So I adopted Melody. And they were supposed to be $80, but when I went to pay, I already had my check nearly written out, and I said, 80, right? And she said, well, no, actually this weekend, we're having a special. They're only a 40, it's half off. So I got Melody for $40 little dollars.
So what do you remember about Brooke when they won state? That was a big moment for her.
Yeah, I think I got to see that game too. I saw it on Facebook the other day and I remembered it. I think I was there.
Yeah. So what do you remember when she graduated and went off to college and everything?
Well, let's see now. She went to 3 or 4 colleges. I think she went to,
Liberty.
was that the first one? Okay, Liberty University in Virginia. I never got to go there. It was so far away. And anyway, I was glad she was going there, though, because it's a very conservative school, and I think they teach a lot of good things. But then after that year, she wanted to go to UTA. The coach there had been really working on getting Brooke to UTA. And the only good thing about that, in a way, for me, was we could go to the games. So Homer and I would drive over there and go to the games at Arlington and got to watch her play. And I even got to watch her that time when she went up to the band and played the drums. That was fun. That was so fun. I just happened to look over there and Brooke's playing the drums. That was neat.
And then she went to Syracuse and got her master's and played basketball.
Yeah, she went to Syracuse, New York. That's another real good school, too. And did quite well, but I never got to go there either. It's a long way off.
Okay, then Lauren comes along.
Yes, little Lauren.
What was Lauren like? I mean, when she was born and all that, this.
Yes, well, everybody fussed over her because she was the baby. And she got whatever she wanted. She didn't have to even talk for a long time because she would just point and grunt and make noises, and Blake especially would cater to her, whatever she wanted. You want that? Okay. He'd just say, you want this? No? Okay. This? It was funny. But she was a real sweet baby. I'm thinking Lauren may have been a little more in the artistic line. She kind of wanted to do interior decorating or design in that. I really thought she was going to make a career out of interior designing. And she did. She played ball too. She played good. She played softball, went to her games and watched her play. She did well. But I really think her talent is more in the artistic line.
So before she was born, right before she was born, we were going to tell you that day when Robert passed away.
Yes.
What do you remember about that day?
Well, I called you when they took Robert to the hospital and put him on life support, and I called you from the hospital to tell you that he was probably going to die there. And you and Leanne came, and then Leanne said, well, we do have some good news, and that we're going to have another baby. And I was really surprised because they had told Leanne not to have any more babies. It wouldn't be good for her and physically. But anyway, so that was a good thing, you know. Lose one and gain another. So that was the day I found out that we were going to have little Lauren, but we didn't know it was going to be a boy or girl then.
And Blake was there too.
Yeah. Did he come with y'all to the hospital?
Yeah, he went in and looked at him. I wouldn't go in there and look.
Yeah, you were. You were in the room, but you didn't come up close. You were
There
kind
was
of.
a window, and y'all went in,
Oh.
and I stayed out.
Oh, wow.
Because Leanne and you and Blake went in there. I
Okay.
think Blake had some questions or something. So, but Blake was there.
Wow. Yeah, that was a real sad day. I had to let him go.
So, what's it been like to watch your grandkids grow up?
Well, it was great. I enjoyed every minute of it. Every little birthday that I was invited to, got to go and enjoy and just watch them grow up. And they all three were superstars. They still are. They're my favorites.
Do you remember where that birthday, it was at the park and Blake was real little? And
Yes.
you got him to reach in and grab with his hands.
Oh, the cake?
Do you remember that?
Did I do that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, when Leanne was in the hospital and you were there when Brooke was born, Robert and I were taking care of Blake, and I took him to get a haircut because his hair was getting kind of long, and they did a spike, but it was so cute. Oh my, he was the cutest kid. And now the hairdresser said, now, if you don't like the spike, I can still put it down like a little boy haircut. Either way. I said, no, I like the spikes. He was so cute. It was real popular then. So when we go up to the hospital to see y'all and Brooke for the first time, we come in with Blake, and Leanne had this look on her face, and I said, be careful what you say. Don't want to upset little ears. I was afraid if she said something that she didn't like it, and then Blake would be crushed, but she didn't. But then later, you know, y'all said to me, "Why?" Yeah, I think you said, "Why did you do that, Mom?"
I wasn't too upset. Mom
I didn't do it for meanness. I just thought he looked cute.
What's it been like for you over the years watching me grow up with my family and everything?
Yeah, well, it's a blessing. It's really a blessing to watch my family. And when I left the Church of Christ, I thought you and Melody were going to be very disappointed in me, but you weren't. You accepted it right away. You were okay with it. And I was very relieved. That was one thing that I was concerned about is my family, you know. I had been reared in the Church of Christ, went to ACU, y'all went to ACU. And then I thought, and now I'm leaving it, and how are my kids going to take that? But no problem.
When did do you remember Warren passing away? I think you told me and everything that you found out he had passed away a while back.
No, I didn't. I hadn't heard from him in a long time. Well, he wouldn't call me. He was living in Corpus, but I would call him every couple of months or so. And the last few times I tried to reach him, he didn't answer. And I thought, well, he may be out. He told me he had a caregiver that would come and take him to grocery store and things. So I thought he was just out doing that. I should have known, but I didn't. When you have a caregiver, you're probably pretty sick. And he was, I'm sure. And so I looked him up online. I just Googled him, Warren Taylor Barnes, and it popped up the obituary. And so then I thought, oh, Mike and Melody don't know because he's been out of touch. So I told you, and it was sad. I didn't want to tell you, but I knew you had to know.
So then, Homer comes along. What has that been like for you to have Homer in your life?
Well, I'll tell you, this is a blessing in the latter part of my life. I don't know how much longer I'm going to live. I'm 81 now. And when I was 75, a friend of ours just introduced us. She didn't mean for me to marry him. She told me later, she said, I didn't mean for you to marry Homer. He's a good friend of mine. And I was just, we were all going to be friends. Well, I said, well, that's what I thought too. But Homer had other ideas. And God had the perfect timing for us to meet because I had been a widow for 19 years. But Homer had only been widowed 3, and he was still a little weepy when he would talk about his Paula and everything. And I saw that, and I thought, well, I can help him through that, to come out of the grief. But it does take a long time. But he really wanted a wife, and he saw something in me. I just opened up to him about my life, and he was a good listener, and it was just, I really just didn't think we would be getting married or anything. In fact, I didn't even want to date him. He wanted me to go get some ice cream one time, and I said, oh, well, I don't date. And he said, it's just get ice cream. And I said, I know, but if I win, it'd be like a date. And he said, no. He said, let me pick you up and I'll take you to wherever you want to go. And I said, okay. He kept asking me, so I said, I'll meet you at Chick-fil-A. They have real good ice cream. I'll meet you there. He said, okay. So I met him there, and we ate ice cream and talked for an hour or so. And so I called it our non-date. It was not a date. Remember, I said, remember, this is not a date. It's a non-date. He laughed. He just laughed. And he still laughs about that. So then I invited him to go with me to Hebron High School was going to have a play. And so I bought 2 tickets. I said, you want to go? Sure. He came over. We went. And then he kind of wanted to kiss me. And I said, no. First of all, this is a non-date. And second of all, you already told me you have a lady friend. And he said, oh, well, I'm in the process of getting that over with. And I said, well, yeah, but you have a lady friend. And I don't like process. And so he left, and the next time he came over, he walked in the door and said, it's over, like that. I knew what he meant. And I said, what are you talking about? I made him tell me. So anyway, then it wasn't long until Thanksgiving, and he said he was going to go visit his daughter Tracy very close to Houston and have Thanksgiving there. Well, he did, but I think he spent the night with her, and then they had Thanksgiving dinner or lunch, and as soon as they were finished eating, he told her he had to get back home. And he called me, and he said, I'm on my way back to see you. I'm finished with Thanksgiving. And I was home, and we'd already done our Thanksgiving. I said, okay. And Tracy told us later she figured something was up since he left so quick. But anyway, And then,
Y'all had a good time ever since.
yes, we've been having a good time ever since, really. We go places together. We do pretty much everything. I don't go with him to the Masonic Lodge, but I go up there if they're having a party, though.
So what has it been like to see me turn 60?
It's hard to believe, Mike, that I have a 60-year-old son, but then when I think about my age, I think, well, yeah, that's about right. So, yeah, I'm 81 and you're 60. That means I was 21 when I gave birth.
So what do you want for your future, next number of years for you?
Well, I want to be able to continue to be active for the Lord, talking to others about Jesus. And I know I am here for a purpose, and that is God's purpose. So it has to have something to do with Jesus. So I better tell as many as I can before it's too late. And Homer and I serve together at Bent Tree, and we enjoy that. We welcome people in. If they sign the visitor card, I send them a little note and tell them how glad we were to come and all. And we both really enjoy doing that and serving in any capacity we can for the Lord. I want to continue to do that as long as God wants me to.
So what do you want from my family's future?
Well, the same thing, Mike. I'm hoping that your faith will continue to grow and all of you will stay faithful to the Lord all the way through, and we'll all meet in heaven together.
Okay. You got me crying.
No, you can't do that.
Anything else you'd like to say?
Just, I love you, Mike. I love your family. You are my family. Since we don't have Melody in our lives anymore, you're my only family.
Love you.
I love you too, Mike. You're a lot like your mom.
Okay.
You weren't supposed to crack up, Mike.